Trump breaking news. President Trump has expressed his support for Israel's military operation in Gaza. In his most direct remarks on the conflict to date, Republican presidential contender Donald Trump backed Israel's invasion of Gaza on Tuesday. The United States is under increasing pressure from other countries to rein in its partner. When asked during a Fox News interview if he was in Israel's camp, Trump answered, "Yes." The interviewer went on to inquire as to whether or not the ex-president was on board with Israel's offensive strategy in Gaza. "You must resolve the issue," Trump retorted. As the number of casualties in Gaza continues to climb and the threat of starvation becomes more real, President Joe Biden, whom Trump is expected to confront for the presidency in November, has been the target of growing criticism from both sides of the political spectrum due to his support for Israel. According to an AFP tally based on official Israeli estimates, the combat started on October 7 with an attack by the Palestinian militant group Hamas on southern Israel. The strike resulted in around 1,160 deaths, the majority of whom were civilians. The Gaza Strip's health ministry reports that 30,534 individuals have been murdered, primarily women and children, as a result of Israel's retaliatory operation in the region. Hamas rules the Gaza Strip. American protest groups have called on voters to punish Biden for his stance on Israel by rejecting him in the upcoming election. In last week's Democratic primary in the U.S. swing state of Michigan, over 100,000 voters chose uncommitted instead of voting for him. The United States, Israel's most trusted partner, is slamming the door in its face as the situation worsens. During her meetings with Israeli War Cabinet member Benny Gantz in Washington on Monday, Vice President Kamala Harris voiced her deep concern about the humanitarian realities in Gaza. In his most firm stance on the matter since the terrorist organization kidnapped over 200 people and killed 1,200 Israelis on October 7, former President Donald Trump said on Tuesday that Israel must end the problem in its confrontation with Hamas. When asked about the conflict on Tuesday, Trump stated, "You've got to end the problem," during an interview with Fox News. "A terrible invasion occurred in your country, but it would never have happened under my presidency." The Palestinian Health Ministry reports that over 30,000 people have died in Gaza due to Israel's military operation, and when questioned on the program if he backed a ceasefire in Gaza, Trump avoided taking a clear stance on the matter. Throughout the 5 months of the war, the probable Republican candidate for 2024 has refrained from expressing his personal views on the tactics of either the United States or Israel. While in office, Trump was a staunch supporter of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government. However, in an effort to differentiate himself from Joe Biden and his only remaining Republican opponent, Nikki Haley, he has taken a stance against the war during his campaign in the past year. Trump asserted Tuesday that the Biden administration went soft and that foreign aggression would not have occurred under his presidency. It was completely unnecessary. He also said that Russia would never have invaded Ukraine. Trump has not yet provided concrete ideas or recommendations regarding the financial involvement of the United States, the handling of hostage negotiations, the situation of the civilian population in Gaza, or whether leaders should seek a one- or two-state solution to the conflict. Although Tuesday's remarks were the strongest indication of direction from him regarding Israel's course of action, in an interview with NBC News, Trump's team touted Biden's stance on Israel and accused him of causing the continuing unrest in the Middle East. When President Trump is back in the Oval Office, Israel will once again be protected, Iran will go back to being broke, terrorists will be hunted down, and the bloodshed will end. Statement by Caroline Leavitt, Trump's national press secretary, who continued, "President Trump did more for Israel than any American president in history, and he took historic action in the Middle East that created unprecedented peace." Trump made the following statement from his Mar-a-Lago estate: "I kept Israel secure." This came just days after Hamas struck Israel. "Not a single soul will. They can't do it. Every single one of the players, I know them all, isn't up to the task." Trump did, in the 3 weeks after the Hamas assault, set forth some basic goals. While addressing the Republican Jewish coalition later that month, he declared that Hamas fighters shall burn eternally in the eternal pit of hell. On October 11, he stated that a future Trump administration would totally support Israel defeating, dismantling, and permanently destroying the terrorist outfit Hamas. In the same month, he promised an increased travel ban that would prevent Gazans from entering the United States if re-elected. Though he was formerly very vocal in his support of Israel, the former president has been rather silent on the topic in the 4 months and counting since then. Parallel to Biden's mounting criticism from American Muslims and left-wing voters over his backing of Israel's response to the October 7 attack, he has remained silent. Following the lead of Michigan, where the uncommitted vote received over 13% in last week's Democratic presidential primary, a slight increase from the nearly 11% who voted uncommitted in 2012, when then-President Barack Obama ran unopposed, a coalition of voters is advocating for Democratic primary voters to cast uncommitted or similar ballot choices. The Biden administration has sharpened its criticism of Israel in the past several weeks, but it has refrained from completely severing defense aid. The release of dozens of captives still held by Hamas is part of the 6-week ceasefire pact that Biden is presently promoting. After NBC News asked for a statement from the Biden campaign, they declined. Shortly after the attack on October 7, Trump vented his frustrations at Benjamin Netanyahu, who had congratulated Joe Biden on his 2020 election victory. Trump claimed that Netanyahu had let us down by allegedly withdrawing from the airstrike that killed Iranian General Qasem Soleimani in 2020, which he had claimed was to be a joint U.S.-Israeli operation. Despite criticism from other Republicans, Trump stuck with the Israeli Prime Minister in a tweet he made to his Truth Social platform several days later. Dallas megachurch pastor and Trump ally Robert Jeffress, who presided over the prayer at the 2018 U.S. Embassy dedication in Jerusalem, told NBC News last month that he was not concerned about his, Trump's, posture fading on Israel. At a February meeting at Mar-a-Lago, the famous Dallas pastor, who oversees a church of over 10,000, discussed evangelical backing with Trump. We would want to hear from President Trump what he's been saying for the previous 9 years, and that is his absolute support for the right of Israel to exist, he said. Christian radio personality and author Maureen Maldonado explained to her listeners why Trump was quieter than they would have thought on the topic of Israel. He's someone who supports Israel, she remarked. It's all about politics, and he must assume office prior to anything else. He must participate in the game.